Talked about the divine feminine and the shadow side, and I wanted to hit the masculine shadow side a little bit too. I was looking at some articles about indigenous tribes, and they were talking about, job allocation, hunter-gatherer, the woman doing the basket and the food and the kids and all of that. And one of the things that really caught my attention was that almost all of them had some form of gambling and competitions that the males indulged in. And I got to thinking about what that looked like today, like an out of control today, and how we've made some of that stuff socially acceptable. I was thinking, we could go to one of the casinos, and if your husband or dad lost the paycheck, that would be a really, really terrible thing, and it would be like a character defect and stuff. But if the same person went out and bought stocks and lost it on Wall Street, it would be okay. And I thought about this, the competition that goes on in the financial markets, the competition to acquire more, to get more material things, then the wars that go on, and it's all about this aggressive need to acquire, to have power, to control. And as we know, so above, so below. So how did that work into my life, or work into all of our lives? What does that look like on a daily basis? What are some of the things that we do? We know that the only power we have is to change ourselves. We're the only person that we work with. And basically, our masculine and our feminine sides are out of balance. We're not in the flow. We're not in love all the time. If you're doing something at all, whatever it is, and it's not coming from love, we're out of balance. We're not connected with Source. We're not in unity. We're not whole. So the first thing I thought about was, competition. We learned competition early. There were 6 of us, and constantly we had to compete against each other for points. Who had done this, who knew the most, answered the most questions, who had read the most books, who could do all of this. It was a constant thing. And then that went to school. You were supposed to compete, and you were supposed to be the best in your class. You're supposed to get A's, all of these things, so that it was always a win. You had to win, you had to beat, you had to do it faster, you had to do it better. You had to win the race. My dad was a track star, so we all had to run faster and better, and you had to do it right. And if you didn't do things right, you were supposed to do it till you got it right. And that meant practicing lots of all different kinds of stuff. So it put us in this mindset, and I still see it. We had our sibling reunion recently, and the competition was still going on. Who knew more? Who knew it first? Who had talked to somebody who really knew, so that they were the authority on it. It was really, really fascinating. Who was right? Who knew which direction to go? And then afterwards, I told you I knew. I mean, it was just this whole thing. And we all do that to some form or another. What else do we do? There's bullying going on. Bullying in the school, that's the big thing right now. But we also do it when you bully your kids to get A's. When you bully your kids to do better. We do it between couples. One bullies the other. It's just, you hear it. I sit in the back seat and listen to my sister and brother-in-law. It's just, give it a break, guys. But we do all these things without really thinking about it. But the one that's the most hard, or was the hardest for me to get a grip on, is this moral superiority thing. And I was talking about it with Jenny recently, and it's there all the time. You're driving down the road, and somebody pulls in front of you and doesn't signal. Why signal? Why don't they signal? Or you're in line at the grocery store, and somebody's in a hurry, huffing. Well, I've waited my turn. Why can't they wait their turn? It's this feeling of being better. And we look around us at all the things that aren't working and should be working, are things that people aren't doing and should be doing. They're not following the rules. I had an aunt who was very proud that she would drive right there at 35 miles through town and never go over that and piss everybody off because they weren't going the speed limit. And that was an example that really stuck with me my whole life. And I go, oh my God, I do things like that all the time. And it's hard to catch. It's like they're speeding. I'm going the speed limit. And it's just that flash and then it's out. And it can be that fast, but what it does in that thought is it separates me. As soon as I've done that, I'm out of the flow. I'm out of love. I'm out of balance. I'm out of sync. And those are the hardest things because they flash so fast. I mean, if I'm bullying somebody, I can really get that. I can see and hear myself saying it and doing it. It's easy to recognize that. But the moral superiority is harder. Somebody's eating that. Or you look at somebody, especially with media the way it is, you know, somebody's fat or somebody's short or somebody's wearing some outfit. Why don't they match? I do it with kids when they're wearing polka dots and plaids. Don't they know better? Those aren't supposed to go together. So it comes up in ways that you don't even realize. And that's the hard one. And when you go back to monitoring your thoughts, we somehow have to catch on to those fleeting ones because I think they do the most harm. It's easy to take something that's big and in your face. I'm a workaholic and I'm a stockbroker and I'm there all the time. I can see that. That's something I can work with and measure and get myself back off of. That to me is an easier thing to do than the fleeting thoughts, the fleeting pictures, whatever those thoughts are. So what are we looking to do with this? We're looking to help ourselves stay connected, to help ourselves stay in a world of love, where we don't have to judge, where we don't go around feeling better than somebody else, where it isn't a win-lose, it's a win-win for everybody. And it takes commitment and it takes discipline. But it's not that hard. I mean, you can take your vitamins every day. You can do things that take discipline. You can do what the doctor tells you to do. I think some of these things we have to make as important as a doctor's prescription. It's something I need for my spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical well-being. The less hate I have in me, the better my health is. The less hate I have in me, the less my emotions are going up and down and bouncing off the walls. The less hate that I have in me, the better place the world is. When we look at the way it's been recently, the economy, everything that's going on, that's mirroring to each of us our disconnection. That's mirroring to us something that's going on inside of us. And we have to get down, find the way to those little things that are hard to pinpoint. Those are the hardest to get over. How is it when they talk about losing weight and it's the last 5 or 10 pounds? How difficult that is. But it's important because I was talking to a friend the other night and she talks about in 100 years she doesn't see how people can be living on this planet. There's a lot of things going on in this world. But when you look at that and you look at the headlines, we've got that inside of us. If we want to clean up the world, we've got to clean up ourselves. We want to go out and clean up the roads, we've got to clean up ourselves. Think of your neural pathways and your thoughts as roads. We've got to clean those thoughts up. We've got to bring them in to a consciousness of love. Sometimes that's easier said than done, but it is doable. But it takes things like quiet time and reflection time and time to get your head around that we're all the same. We're all God. None of us is any better than the others. It doesn't matter what color, size, shape, whatever we come in. We're all the same. We're all born. We're all going to die someday. We're all going to go through a journey, through the trials and tribulations. And I've determined that the last half of my life, the journey's going to be more fun than it was the first half, because the first half was miserable. I don't want to do that anymore. And coming to that realization makes it easier to pay attention to what I'm thinking. Sometimes thoughts just come in and you go, where did that come from? But it's something that's getting your attention because it's time to let it go. We've had lots of talks about forgiveness and non-judging and all of these things, but it's time for us to start bringing them together, to bring it back into this centered place where we all care about each other, where we know person needs. For example, somebody says they need something. You go to a yard sale or one of your friends is giving it away. Automatically, pick that thing up and take it and give it to the person. But you do it without strings. You don't need to be gifted back. You don't need to be told thankful. It's the epitome of living, paying it forward. I can remember many times on the road where car trouble and being single, I needed help. And people would help and no, you just help the next person. We keep helping. And as we do help out of whatever the ideal is, volunteerism, being seen good, even if it's moral superiority, it's a start. And we build these habits. And as we build the habits and do it more, we start enjoying it more. And we start to feel better about the world, about ourselves. We see that everyone out there isn't what's on the news. Everyone isn't a bad thing. Everyone isn't out to get you. By interacting with people, we can start to find the divine in them and connect that with the divine in us, which takes us to love. And that's where we want to be. And the angel is chiming. That was neat. But love is so important. And it isn't being in love, or I love peanut butter, or I love your hair, or I love your outfit, or I love you. Love is a thing, it's almost a verb, like healing where you become the healing. Loving is the same kind of thing, where your heart is open and you're connected to everything around you, and you're feeling peace and caring and this warm, gentle, lovely appreciation of what's around us. We go out and look at the beauty of flowers and trees. Did you ever get up and think, I'll go out and look at the beauty of people today? And just look at the beauty? Do you know how many beautiful eyes and smiles there are in this world? There's a lot of them. But we're so goal-oriented, so busy trying to get to the end, that we forget to appreciate the journey and appreciate the beauty and to allow ourselves the time to not be aggressive, to not be materialistic, to not be all of those things that are out of balance, but the time to love, to flow, to flow. You think of it like a river. You flow with it. Sometimes it's a little bumpier than others. Sometimes you bounce off the shores, but you keep flowing and you keep putting yourselves back in the current. That's the journey. That's the beauty. But in the middle of that, when you can appreciate the beauty of the rapids, when you can appreciate the beauty of the stomach dumping out, when you can appreciate those moments and all their magnificence, can you imagine how boring this world would be without that, without emotions, without those things? We live in paradise up here. We see beauty every day. When you go to Rayleigh's or Vaughn's, look around and appreciate the beauty of the people. Look in their eyes and see, there's some gorgeous eyes out there. You can just melt into them. Then there are ones that sparkle and they've got hints of humor and glisten. There are ones that just see you, the beauty that you are, and see your soul, and not your outfit and not your bad hair day. Allow yourself the gift of opening up. It's like the flower opening up. And then the light at the inside of us flows out. And everywhere you go, people feel better. Because the essence of the loving goes out and touches and heals everybody and makes a difference. So this week, try and pay attention to your thoughts when you're driving or when you're waiting in line. And remind yourself, instead of worrying about who's first or who almost ran me over, let me think about the beauty of the car that almost ran me over. It was orchestrated nicely because I missed. And use your humor. Your humor heals. But when you go out this week, pay attention to bringing yourself back together. Pay attention to the marriage that's happening within you as you become loving. Thank you.